Hey, what's happening, all you diseased children out there? I'm Duuz-Diz-Din coming at you with another IDW Sonic the Hedgehog issue review. This time it's issue number 15 titled Patient Zero. This time around, we have Sonic and Amy following up on Amy's plan from the end of last issue, namely going to a nearby Eggman base in order to actually access his Eggnet and hopefully get some information about what exactly Eggman's latest plan is, because by far, everyone and their mother has been in the dark about what Eggman is truly up to. Now, we as the audience know exactly what's going on because, well, we're the audience. We see whatever happens out there, but Sonic has no idea what he's about to get a load of. Now, we also get some backstory on this Eggman base in particular, namely that a great battle was fought here during the time frame that Sonic was in prison during Sonic Forces. And, this is something I really appreciate in terms of Ian Flynn's writing, and that's actually making certain situations within the games seem to carry more weight in terms of the comics. Whereas in the games, honestly, Sonic's absence was treated like no big deal, especially by Sonic, despite the fact that he was gone for, what was it, an entire year imprisoned? And he just leaves like it's nothing. Like, dude, you were gone for a year, not a month or a week. Like, he acts like he was gone for all of a day. Not to mention the fact that the whole of Sonic's world was up in arms trying to take back their world, their livelihoods from Eggman. But it's treated like it has no consequences in the frame of Sonic Forces. But here, Amy notes they lost good people on this mission, taking down Eggman's various forces. And Sonic, contemplates that for a second, the regret of not being there to help out. And, Amy reaffirms his, feelings by saying, look, you turned the tide of the war. Without you, we would have nothing that we have right now. Never forget that. And that's a great emotional scene right there. Great emotional moments. So it's just that disappointment in the direction that certain Sonic games choose to go and not really exploring the repercussions of what they choose to do. Meanwhile, Sonic and Amy actually manage to make their way to the actual computer room. They find the computer room, folks, of the Eggnet systems. Meanwhile, Dr. Starlin actually sees this and informs Eggman, who is putting the finishing touches on some backpack canisters filled with the techno-organic roboticization virus liquid. And he's about to go give them to Rough and Tumble, who have been badgering him to no end to actually outfit them with something that will take Sonic down. Not really blaming it on their own incompetence, but on the fact that Eggman hasn't outfitted them with weaponry that will work. So Eggman is all too happy to potentially get rid of them once and for all. And he even gives them a bit of a drill tank, this massive drill tank, to, go into the mine shafts and take on Sonic. So while Sonic and Amy do manage to access the Eggnet and get some info on a device that looks like a smaller version of the Space Colony Arc, something called a payload distributor. So this is actually going to carry the techno-organic virus across, I was about to say Mobius, but Sonic's world, and, infect the whole of the world with the techno-organic, liquid. However, Sonic and Amy's studying gets interrupted by the arrival of Rough and Tumble with their usual Team Rocket-esque introductory line. However, they start to kind of bicker over the fact that it didn't really rhyme this time around, and they were kind of egged on by Sonic for the most part. And Amy ends up wondering a lot about how a lot of people wonder, it's just like, how did they take over an entire town? Which, Just because they could take over a town doesn't mean they were actually competent enough to keep it or even actually manage it in a competent fashion. But, I love Sonic's line as well about the fact that it's Amy's turn to help him beat them up. Going back to the first few appearances where, they were fought with Sonic and Knuckles, and then later on Sonic and Tails, and so this time around it's Sonic and Eggman. But they actually do have a hard time destroying the exterior of this drill mech for the most part, leaving them no other option but to run away for the most part. Until they make their way to a refuse pit where all the trash and excess debris is basically just thrown into. So they use this as an opportunity to basically streamline where Rough and Tumble can actually go. They can't really maneuver, turn, or anything because of the narrow pathway around this refuse pit. And Sonic and Amy use this to go around back, destroy the wheels as well as the cockpits of the drill device, sending it careening over into the refuse pit. But Rough and Tumble used this opportunity to activate Plan B, which they had no idea what it actually was, so it's just like, it shows how much of idiots they actually are, because they had no idea, they didn't ask any questions about what exactly Plan B is supposed to be, and so they are contaminated with the techno-organic liquid, becoming these robotic-like creatures, these techno-organic robotic creatures. And they just start attacking mindlessly and just, they just zero in on Sonic and Amy for the most part. Sonic even coins the term zombie robots, Zombots. And they just they don't seem to tire, they don't seem to respond, they're mindless, soulless creatures. And that's saying something because Rough and Tumble were not the brightest bulbs in the set. So, and Amy even goes at Rough with her Pico hammer, but, the damage that it does just immediately just slurps back together, and that was kind of freaky too. Leave it to Ian and, the artist of this issue just to, create an unsettling situation, because Ian kind of became known for that back in the Archie comics, creating these unsettling moments that just kind of give you pause for a moment, just make you think, wow, that's kind of messed up. Because it's just like, it makes you wonder, it's just like, are they dead? Are they still alive? Do they still function? Are they still in there for the most part? So they're basically invincible for the most part and unrelenting. And as Sonic comes to find out by slathering it on his mouth, you touch them, you become contaminated as well. So Sonic starts to just knock them both into the refuse pit. And despite the fact that they'll be fine once they reach the bottom, Sonic isn't in great shape, as he's just like, oh, Amy, I'm kind of in trouble. Seems whatever they had on them is infectious, and we need some ideas, fast. And so, with victory basically in sight with Sonic being contaminated, Dr. Eggman tells Starland that they will move on to the next phase of their plan to spread Eggman's metal virus across the world, using the payload distributors that Amy and Sonic looked up earlier in the issue. And that's the thing about it, it's just like that deviousness, just to do things. But Eggman, honestly, people have said that Ian's writing for Eggman can sometimes be a little too dark, but Eggman has kind of always been that way. Getting ready to just bomb an entire city just because he couldn't wipe it out himself with a water beast, breaking apart an entire planet and unleashing a dark god for the most part, enslaving several planets actually. It wouldn't be the first time he enslaved an entire planet. Eggman has done some really deep, devious, and dark things in the past, and this is just another notch in his rather loose-fitting wide belt. But I've heard a lot of people state that they inquire as to why Bean and Bark weren't brought in as henchmen, because honestly, Rough and Tumble sometimes don't really bring the kind of nuance and interest that people wanted. And honestly, Ian Flynn's hands are kind of tied on that, as he has gone on record to say that, it's those mandates that Sega puts in place. But the thing that people don't seem to understand about these mandates is the fact that they're kind of temporary things. Sega could change their mind further down the line, but at this point, it's all about keeping the world separate. And yes, you heard me right, separate worlds. As we have the classic world where Sonic Mania takes place. So, classic characters are regulated to that. Classic Sonic, Amy, Knuckles, Tails, Eggman, Metal Sonic, they're all regulated to that. But as well as classic characters who have only appeared in the classic games, such as Knack the Weasel, Bean, Bark, Mighty, Ray. They are all relegated to the earlier stages of Sonic. Meanwhile, we have the modern era Sonic stuff, where you see all this stuff happening ever since Sonic Adventure. And even speaking of that, we have the fact that the human world is actually a separate world than Sonic's world. So all those events with Gun, Chaos, stuff along those natures, wherever you saw humans involved, that was another world as well. Yes, we operate on Sonic X logic, where there are two separate worlds that Sonic travels between from time to time, apparently. So that's something to take note of as well. And even Ian Flynn has stated some mild frustration in this, because it's just like, in the past, he's done his best in order to kind of meld these worlds together as a cohesive whole. And you saw that a lot in his, previous series. They're in the, semi-reboot of the Archie series, where he had, classic Sonic, and then, the past was the past, and then, modern Sonic was the present, and, Gun existed in the same world as Sonic lived in, and all that. And it made sense to everyone. But now all those worlds are separate, all those stories are separate, and you have to finagle around that to actually have everything kind of incorporated for the most part. So, that just really creates some storytelling limitations that I just do not understand why Sega decided to go with this. But until Word of God says otherwise, namely Sega, these worlds are separate, and we will not be seeing, any of those characters intermingle. Never the two shall meet. Aside from the occasional crossovers, where they decide to drag out classic Sonic to go on yet another, Sonic Generations milking adventure. But, that's neither here nor there in terms of this issue. Tell me your thoughts in the comment section below. Well, how do you think they'll be able to combat this mental virus? We already know that it grows out of control beyond Eggman's reach, since Silver is trying to prevent a future where everything has become metallically infused with this techno-organic virus. And, how will they end up curing it? What can they do to cure it? Who will be the one to actually find the cure as well? And we also know, because of future solstices, solicitations that show that Sonic manages to make it through for the most part. But, how does he do it? And how long does he actually manage to pull it off? And even if he does have the plot armor to keep him in his cognitive mind, that doesn't say much about his friends, now does it? At any point, the world can be turned into a metallically controlled world. But hey, if you liked this video, feel free to leave me a like, and if you didn't, feel free to leave me a dislike, and let me know what I did wrong in the comment section below, so I might further improve my videos from here on out. But until then, how about subscribing, as I'll definitely be bringing you more metallicized issue reviews of Sonic the Hedgehog by IDW. But until then, I will see you kitties later. And remember, always see your local doctor.